Hello and welcome to Lenscraft. In this video I'm going to take a look at some of the popular image editing packages that we tend to use as photographers, and I'm going to do it in a bit of a different way. This video will focus on one of the packages that I use a lot, which is the Nik Collection, and I'm going to use it to edit this image which I shot last year. In a subsequent video I'm going to take a look at other image editing packages such as On1 and the Topaz image editors, and also Alien Skin and a couple of others as well. And then at the end of these series of videos I'm going to compare the different editors' results to say which one do I think has given me the best result and why. So to get started, I've actually loaded the image. It's had some basic adjustments in Lightroom at this point, but nothing dramatic, and I now need to enhance it. Now I've created a number of layers here, and this one is the Nik Collection layer, I've named it, and it's a smart object. So I can now edit my adjustments, and subsequent editors I will add as extra layers into this so we can do a straight comparison at the end. So I'll start off with the Nik Color Efex Pro filter, and I want to use this to add some contrast into here, a little bit of structure into the sky, and add some colour around this part of the image. And later on I want to also open up the shadows on the castle here. So let's get that filter open now. Now all this warning message is doing is telling me that I'm editing a smart object and that the information about the edits will be saved. Here we are, the first filter that we can apply, and I always tend to start with this in Color Efex, which is the Pro Contrast, and I like it because this dynamic contrast slider can add an awful lot of detail into the image and darker areas without actually causing anything to go to black or blow out to white. That's created quite a nice look for this image. I'm now going to add another filter, and this time I'm going to focus on enhancing the colours in the sky here and a little bit in the foreground as well. And the filter I'm going to use for that is the skylight filter. Now that has a habit of turning any blue, such as these clouds here, a little bit purple, which isn't good. So I'm going to take that out by using a negative control point here, and I'm going to add another of those just over here. I'll just resize it, and I'm now going to add in some actual colour adjustments here. You can see that coming up quite nicely here near to the castle and on the foreground. And I just think I'll add one more onto the reflection on the water there. So that looks quite good. You can already see there's quite a dramatic improvement there. I think actually the cloud there needs a little bit more of the adjustment taking off it. So that looks quite good. I can check the selection from the control points, so that's showing me what's selected. And that looks pretty good. I may actually just take a little bit more off the beach there, but rather than having the 0 opacity, I'm going to increase that slightly just to give it at least some partial colour. So there we can see the mask that's been created, and that looks good. I actually like that quite a lot. I'm now going to add in another filter, and this time I want to bring out the shadow detail here in the castle, and the way I'm going to do that is with the detail extractor. Now that's made the image look quite horrible at the moment. I'm going to change that now to a fine adjustment, and I'm going to limit the extraction to the castle. Now as soon as I added the control point, you could see then immediately the effect was hidden from everything else. If I show you the mask, you can see now that only the very dark areas around here are being selected. There's a little bit on the clouds here and a little bit in the grass, but that's not too bad. If I want to remove it from the clouds, I can add another control point up here and just resize that, and that's created a reasonable mask. The detail extractor itself, if you use this adjustment, it will actually lighten shadows quite considerably. So I'm going to add a little bit of detail extraction. I'm going to up the contrast because it is just a little bit too light. And I'm going to add in just a little bit more saturation at this point. So I'm happy with that. And now I'm going to actually add a filter that you probably won't think I would add. And that is actually the Glamour Glow filter. Now, whilst this is intended really for portrait type work, you can actually do a lot in landscapes with it. So I'm going to start off by adding in quite a bit of glow. And I'm also going to increase the saturation, and I'm going to increase the warmth of this as well. Now that's added quite a dreamy effect to the image, but I actually want to control it a bit more than it is at the moment. So I'm going to go back to adding it with control points. And I'm going to just take it out of the sky up here, because I don't want it to disrupt the colour too much. Okay, I quite like that now. Let's just see if we can warm it up. No, it's I was going to say let's see if we can warm it up a bit further, but it seems to be turning the colours a little bit unnatural. Let's just adjust the saturation. That doesn't actually look too bad. I'm now going to close that and we'll accept that, and in a minute I'm going to go into Viveza where we'll add a little bit further adjustment. Okay, so we're now back in Photoshop and I'm going to add the next adjustments with Viveza. Again, we've got the warning message about smart objects. And I'm going to start by selectively increasing the colour or warmth in the sky. And I'm also going to increase the saturation in that area and the contrast, but I'm going to darken the brightness as well because that adds a nicer touch to the sky and the sunset. Now over on the castle, I'm going to add a selection there. And you can see there I'm holding down my control key, and as I resize it shows me the selected area. And I'm going to increase the saturation there. I'm also going to open the shadows very slightly, and I'm going to increase the contrast. And now I'm just going to tone the brightness down very slightly. Okay, that looks quite good. And I'm now going to just take some of this extra orange that I added in as the warmth to the sky. I'm just going to take it off the beach. And the way I'm doing that is adding new control points but not making any adjustment with them. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm trying to keep it looking a little bit more natural on the sand, whereas the sky, I do want quite a bit of colour in the sky. Now you can see each time I add a control point that's new, Nik will actually override other control points effects on that area. So I'm adding in just a little bit of warmth and quite a bit of saturation, some contrast, and reduce the brightness slightly. And I'm going to try a little bit of structure here as well, because sometimes the structure actually increases the look of the clouds where they're quite wispy. Now that control point there is just a little bit too strong. I don't like the effect it's having. I want to keep more of a subtle pastel effect. Let's take a look now at the grass. And all I'm doing here now is holding down my control point as I move around until I get the right selection. I'm going to try and increase the contrast now. I'm going to reduce the brightness slightly. That's looking quite good. And I'm actually going to reduce the saturation because it's looking a little bit too saturated on the grass. I'm going to just increase the structure very slightly there. Quick comparison. I'm reasonably happy with that. Let's just now try some global adjustments on here. So I'm just opening up the shadows slightly, but now reduce the brightness, and that looks much more like the evening scene. And let's see if adding in some negative structure does anything. So that softens up the sky quite nicely. So I'm probably going to keep that with some negative structure. Come down here now to the overall tone curve, and I want to keep the shadow areas quite light, but I want to reduce the contrast very slightly in the midtones. And I'm just going to compensate for that by adding a little bit of global contrast. Okay, I'm happy with that now. I'll just accept it. So that now is our finished image. This is going to be used as a baseline. And if you just want to compare it back to the original, you can see there we've made substantial improvement using the Nik Collection. In the next video, I'm going to look at another popular image editor. I've not decided which one yet, but it will probably be something like On1 Photo Raw, or it might be one of the Topaz Adjusters. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.